Hello everyone. Today we will be unboxing another figurine for the week. Here we have is a figure for the manufacturer Mimeyoi. Is a 1/7 scale PVC figure of the character Aoba Minami from the series Sorairo Utility or Sky Colored Utility. As always, before we take the figurine out of its packaging, just in case you didn't know, Sorairo Utility or Sky Colored Utility is an anime original which was originally a special which was released first in 2021 by studios Yostar Pictures. The story and the concept was written by Kota Nozomi, then later became a full anime released in 2025 by the same studios Yostar Pictures, consisting of 12 episodes. But the story for the anime was written by Yui Sato, Aya Satsuki, and Aki Mizuki, while both TV special and official anime was directed by Kengo Saito. There's also a mini special ONA called Sorairo Utility Cross Birdie Wing Golf Girls Story Mini Anime in 2025 by Studios Aqua Aris, having characters from the Birdie Wing anime. So here we have is Aoba Minami, labeled as Nice Shot Challenger 1/7 scale figurine. So this is the box rotating in 360. So without holding you guys back, let's just take Aoba out the packaging and see how she looks. So here we have is Minami Aoba straight out of her box, and as you can see here, she's actually a little bit well packaged. Not really too much plastic around the figurine. It seems like they only place it on some areas that look like there'll be more of the delicate areas. So let's just remove all of this excess plastic and see how the figurine looks up close. So here we have is the assembly instructions guide, or should I say the handling instructions guide. And as you can see here, it's actually a folded piece of paper, and the quality of the paper actually feels high quality. It doesn't feel like just a regular flimsy, sheet of paper. So I guess that's pretty neat. I know, I just needed to, say that if you were wondering. And as you can see here, the text here is actually all in Japanese. So if you're not able to read Japanese, I don't really think it's too much of a need to read this or how to handle the figurine, and some maybe some support, I guess, but there's not really too much to put the figurine together. As you can see here, we have one section which shows everything that the figurine comes with, and on this side of the sheet we have is how to actually connect each part together. But we'll be also doing that in this video, so you don't really need to worry about reading all of this. But as you can see here, this is the whole piece of sheet of paper, which is only 2 steps to actually follow in this sheet of paper, which is connecting it to the base and also the club. So let's actually just fold this together back and move on to the actual figurine. So here we have is the figurine's base, and I have a lot to say about this base, but before we actually get into it, here at the bottom of the base, here we have is information, just like we see with other figurines. And as you can see here, we have is a lot more info here, such as the sculptor being Jarel, the painter being Emi Hoshina, I guess photo, which I don't know what that really means, is Photo Studio Chokot, and resin cast Replace Man with the studio's name and also the title of the anime. And it actually is a reflective white coating they added to the bottom that actually makes it look really nice. And as you can see, it is an actual acrylic base compared to the typical plastic base we get with other figurines. This looks really nice. And as you can see here, they do have this text here, which is the anime's name, Aoba Minami, and a little small text which is kind of hard to read. Even with my camera that I'm trying to focus on here, it was kind of hard for me to actually capture the text. I don't really think you're able to read this. I mean, I can't read it with my eyes, but if you could pause the video and read it, then you can read it. But yes, this actually feels like a really high quality base. Because it is an acrylic base, there's a little bit of weight to it, and as you can see here, it is transparent, and as you can see, it is actually in a octagonal type shaped, is shaped as an octagon. So we do get is this, you know, chisel sides here that create this beautiful shape here. And you do see here it does have 2 insert pegs where you connect the figurine on top of. And overall the base actually looks really nice. I kind of feel like more companies should actually give you this type of acrylic bases like they do when they show you their prototypes. I feel like they should do that for other figurines rather than a plastic base. But it could be maybe, you know, cost and stuff like that. But regardless, let's just move on to the actual figurine. So here we have is Aoba Minami's actual figurine sculpt, and I'm actually quite impressed of how it looks. But just like we do with every other figurine, here we're going to be taking a closer look of the figurines. Starting from her shoe area, and as you can see here, she does have this blue plastic underneath because she's actually in a pose where she's kind of leaning to the side. So it's kind of like a weird angle of how this like little plastic blue crystal looking thing is stuck on her foot. And you can't actually remove that because that's supposed to be inserted onto the base. But as you can see here, the texture work and the paint work on the shoe looks really amazing. I think since I've been unboxing on more pop-up parades, I kind of forgotten how detailed other figurines can be, and this is actually really detailed. You do see they added a little bit of texture work in front of this shoe, of this golf shoe. And you do see the little design actually looks pretty cool, and you do see that they have creases. They did add the crease lines on the sock, which actually looks really detailed. And as you can see here, she does have a little bit of red on her skin where the sock is being tight on her. And usually, you know, when you get like your fabric is tight on your skin, it gets a little red. It has that similar like look. And as you can see here, the paint work on her leg, it looks actually really nice. And because she's actually in a pose, her right foot is sticking in the air. So this is more on the top side. So which is why she's in a leaning pose. Hopefully there's no leaning issues with the figurine, but only time can tell. Here we have is her other shoe, which looks, you can see more of the bottom of it, which actually looks really nicely detailed. I do know that golf shoes actually have a little bit of a protrusion on the bottom, but here they made it more of a flat surface, but it's still detailed nonetheless. It's the same design we saw with the other shoes, so there's not really too much I can say about it, but the texture work on it looks really nice. Same thing with the sock. So here we have is the back side of her leg here, which I do like they had it a little bit of back of the leg there sculpted, which looks actually pretty nice. So here we have is her short shorts, which we see here. I did want to point this out because I did notice this when I took the figurine out of its packaging. You do see here she does have underwear underneath her short shorts, which is a nice little detail that they didn't really need to add that, but it is quite detailed that they did add that. You do see here is actually a turquoise type yellowish frills around the underwear, kind of matching her regular, you know, outfit that she's wearing at the moment. But you do see here they did have a bit of detail with all this, like the thigh area and her bottom side there being protruded out, which is actually a nice little detailed touch. It makes it a little bit more realistic than just being it flat. So here we have is her backside, where you do see she does have a sculpted back underneath there, and I did also notice that there is a bra exposure here at the bottom. You do see here, like towards the top area, where it's the same color and design as her underwear, which is something that you would not know unless you bought the figurine and looked at it, because none of the pictures that they did have online showed this. This is something that I saw when I took it out. So it's a nice little touch. It's not really like I expected that, but it's there. Here we have is the front of her short shorts, where you do see is she has a yellow belt, and you do see they did add more texture around the front area there, where you can see the short shorts kind of tight on her, so you do see a little bit of creases around her thigh and in her little waist area there. You can see they actually sculpted it quite well. You do see is a little belly button, and I think that's you only see her stomach area from her golf shirt. And because she's postured in like a little bit of a swinging pose, you do see it kind of curves towards the top area from her ribs, and you do see here her fabric from her shirt is flowing in the air, which they did add crease lines around it, which I do really like the paintwork on this, where you do see some of the areas where it's creased, it's more of a darker blue, while the rest of the area where it's not creased, it's more of a lighter blue, which kind of gives it like kind of a nice how do you say, well, it gives it a nice lighting to the figurine. Here we have is the little penguin design here, or the little penguin logo we see, and it's kind of cute with the little hat and the little bow. Here we have is the little letter on the back side of her what do you call that extension? Well, whatever, where you do see here the black line behind here is actually aligned nicely compared to some other figurines, and they actually aligned it really nicely. Here we have is underneath, we do see is her kind of tied up hair on the bottom side here, where it's kind of touching her shirt, and we do see here is this little sail, and the rest of this black line here with the rest of this creased up shirt. Here we have is another front section of her top shirt, where you do see her bosom area where it also says sail, and we also get a little logo here on the top where you do see is a little letter sign. And there is a little bit of depth into her arm, which is it's a lot better than just having it flat. And in this arm here, you do see she has a little bit of her armpit there on the bottom, which again looks a lot better than just having it, you know, cut off and just an arm, you know, glued onto the sleeve. Here's her other arm, or should I say her hands, and you do see here she does have gloves, her little golf gloves, and she's holding onto the club there, which is a separate piece where we do have to connect it together. And you do see here from these gloves, her fingers are actually like sticking outwards rather than holding it on to the glove. And you do see here we have a little logo on it, which actually looks really nicely sculpted. You can kind of tell like how some areas are more connected together while the other fingers are more, you know, standing straight up. And as you can see, she's holding onto the golf club, which is only half of it, which it's a separate piece we have to connect together. But the hand sculpt actually looks quite nice. So here's the back side of her hair, which I did want to point out that this section of her hair here on the side does feel quite fragile. I kind of don't want to move it, but it kind of could somewhat flick, and there's a possibility that you could break it if you do flick the hair piece in the front here. So do be careful when you are, you know, towards touching to the top of her head area, because you can accidentally break it. And I did want to point out that she actually has quite glossy eyes, and I did notice that they actually painted lips on her, so she kind of looks like she has lipstick on her mouth area, which is something that I usually don't see on figurines, but it's actually a nice little touch. I don't know if my camera captures it well, but she does have a little bit of painted lips, so it kind of looks like she has lipstick. And here we have is the top section where you do see she has her eyebrows underneath her front bangs, and the paintwork on her eyes looks really amazing. I did want to point out she does have a little earring with the same penguin on the side there, which is kind of cute. And also you can see her face, as she has a happy expression, and as you can see here, this is the side profile, and the other side, which is a little bit hard to tell because her hands are, you know, kind of covering, so we can't really see that much of her side face. And here's her hat, which says Umi, which is pretty cute. And yeah, that's about it. here's the top of her hair, which I forgot to show, where you do see is separated by 3 sections here, like this front area and the 2 sides there. And the top hair is somewhat sculpted quite nicely. You don't really get too much lines like you get in front of the figurine, but besides that, it's actually a quite detailed figurine, and the paint work, the sculpt work looks absolutely amazing. It's been a minute since I've actually unboxed a regular figurine, so seeing this like compared to the pop-up parades, I think this is really well sculpted and painted. So let's just connect this to the base. So here is the golf piece that we have to connect to the actual figurine, and as you can see here, there is a certain, like, the peg is a certain shape where you do have to connect it to the handle, which I'll be showing you guys later, but there's not really too much to show you here. You do see is a little bit of detail work on the front here, where you do see is a little lines on the front of the club. You can see here on the back there's a little bit of numbers here, which does a ADMOZ UT06, which I guess is the numbering of the golf club. Besides that, there's not really much too else to say about it. It does feel a little fragile, where you could accidentally snap this, so do be careful and don't really put too much pressure when you are connecting this to that figurine. That's just something I just want to advise you before continuing on. So let's just connect this to the figurine. Alright guys, so that was Mimeyoi's 1/7 scale PVC figure of the character Minami Aoba from the series Sora-iro Utility, or Sky Colored Utility. All in all, I gotta say is such a great paint work and sculpt work overall on this figurine. I really love the base, how it's a clear acrylic base. It does give it a little bit of weight to it, but it does kind of give the figurine like a high quality feel. I did a little bit of research, so it is actually hand painted and also assisted painted, where I think they use a machine to color some areas, so it's not fully, but it is kind of the both. But regardless, I think they did an amazing work painting the figurine. So overall, I gotta say, is a pretty nice figurine. I hope they make other figurines of other characters, which would be really nice to have it compared side by side with this one. I think it'll look really nice together, but I kind of doubt that, because I don't really think this series is somewhat popular throughout the globe, which is kind of a stretch to say it is. But if you had not checked out this series, I highly recommend it. It's a great watch, and it's kind of a cool experience seeing someone get into to the golf hobby, which I think in this series the character is a high schooler that starts to learn and get interested into the golf, get interested into playing golf, which is pretty nice to see. But what do you guys think of the figurine? Is it a great figurine, or would you get something else? But that's all I'm going to say, guys. That's going to be the end of this one. I'll leave you guys off with the figurine rotating in 360 and other close-up shots of the figurine. Well, as I always say, guys, Always support the original creators for the series of figurines that we unbox. Thank you guys for always watching the video and always supporting the video. I appreciate it. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
空に大きく今踏み出